Hi, I'm Gavin with Haversick Designs, and welcome back to the Sound Project. We have the pleasure today to be on site at Richard Carrasco's studio called Fullwave Studios in Chino. Is that?
It's Eastvale.
Eastvale.
Eastvale is what it's called now. It used to be Chino, but now it's Eastvale.
Okay, Eastvale, California.
Eastvale, California.
And I've known Richard for now maybe 3 years, something
Or
like
so,
that.
2020-ish
Yeah,
or so.
3 or 4 years. And it's just a pleasure to be in a room that I've only seen in photos or on paper, in CAD drawings and things like that.
Or Instagram, right?
Yeah, or Instagram.
It's online.
Right.
Yeah.
So you had contacted me, back in 2020 time, and you're building this studio just off of your house, and I think that you're connected to us from Vintage King.
Through Vintage King,
Yeah,
correct.
Yep. And it's just a cool concept. I mean, you've got just such a wonderful place here. You got the studio, you've got a pool outside, like hangout area. But what? Well, first let's talk about like a little bit about your background and how you got into get into the place where you're building a studio like this.
All right. Well, I grew up here in South Los Angeles, and in the area where just a few miles southeast of Los Angeles, southeast Los Angeles. I grew up here all my life, son of like immigrant parents, right? They came here. And what's interesting is that in my family, no one really plays music. No one ever played music. And one day I must have done something bad where I was in the garage, I remember, and I saw a guitar, acoustic guitar with no strings on it. And one day I said to myself, I'm gonna put strings on that. And I figured that if I could do something really good, it'd be awesome, right?
Yeah.
And so little by little, I started learning how to play guitar. And then after that, there was a magazine here called Recycler. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yeah.
But they had a posting for a guitar player. So I went to apply for it. And it was two guys that they were starting a band. And we got together, and there's actually the amp that's back there. Where I had just bought an amp because I had a little small baby amp.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go into this rehearsal, and I bought a new amp. And when I bought that amp, I met up with these guys. We played cover music, like Metallica and all that basic stuff. And then all of a sudden, my amp turns to smoke.
Oh, no.
So starting fire. And it's actually out there. I'll show it to you. And from that point on, we all looked at each other, and we said, there's something here. It's funny how the amp just caught on fire.
Yeah.
So we formed the band. The band was called Gods and Oddiss. And we toured and played all through LA, Los Angeles, all California. And we did that for quite a few years, got 2 albums. And during that album time phase, before we even did the album, we had labels coming to us to do record with them.
Sure.
But some of the deals they were giving us didn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
The amount they were giving us. And I believe at that time, the CDs or records were about $10 each-ish.
Sure.
And they were offering us like 60 cents or 25 cents per album.
Yeah.
And we had to book our own shows and do everything. So at the end, I said to the band, well, we do that already now anyways. We already book our own shows. Why don't we use the money to buy a recording, a 4-track. So I looked online, and that's when I was telling you that 4-track that's over there. Yeah. We bought a Tascam 424, and I recorded the first album, the first singles we did.
Yeah.
We sold them at the shows. There was a lot of interest there, so we started doing more. And next thing you know, we have an album, and that demo album took us to a recording studio in Long Beach, which is not there anymore. It used to be above the BB King restaurant.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the studio. So we did a full-blown album there. We had the money from the sales to do that. And then later on, we did another album on that. And that was just my whole punk world, because it was LA, it was punk.
Yeah.
Punk music. We did that for many years. But during that time, at the end, maybe 2000-ish or so, the internet was kind of like coming up. Napster, it was a big thing where a lot of the people that I knew in the music industry were either not going anywhere, or there was a lot of like people stealing your rights and your songs. So I don't know why I got the bright idea to go to school. So I applied for college, and I ended up going to school for electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And I went to grad school, all the way to grad school, but we were still playing shows during the time off. And after that, once we got married, I had kids, I wanted to get into the studio again, start
Yeah.
recording again. And then we had our first daughter, and that takes time.
Yeah.
And then once that was over, I said, I'm ready again. We had a second daughter, and so that delayed it. So by the time that I contacted you, we were already at the phase of building a house in our backyard to rent.
Right.
Because our parents get older and the kids in California, housing prices are so expensive. So me and my wife thought, let's have a house we could build so that if something happens to our parents or our kids want to buy a house, they can just live in our backyard. And she agreed. We went through all the paperwork and everything prior to contacting you. And then right when we were about to sign the day before, my wife tells me, I don't want anyone living here.
Yeah.
I don't want no one living here. Like,
Yeah.
it's just too much stuff. Like, why don't you make it into your studio?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, sold, sold. I was
Don't
like,
twist
no,
my arm.
Don't twist my arm. And so that's the adventure. That's when all the adventure started at that
Wow.
moment about how. Then I started looking, couldn't find anyone, and I ended up talking to the guys from VK,
Yeah.
Vintage King, and they introduced me to you.
Yeah.
And that's how we met.
Yeah.
And that's how the whole music and how the music was happening. Because even though I was playing, and even though I was going to school, I was still doing recording
Right.
with that little 4-track. And sometimes people will invite me to their house because they were recording, or to the studio because they knew that I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So I was dabbling in the production side of it,
Yeah.
little by little. And over the years came on, it got to a point where it's like I always fell back to this. No matter what happened in my life, I always fell back to music.
Yeah.
And this is why at the end, in that time frame, I said, you know what, I'm going to go all in.
That's
I'm
awesome.
going to go all in
I know.
the studio.
Yeah, when we first had our initial video calls, you had a studio set up kind of in the garage area, I think maybe, or
Yes,
in your house.
yeah.
And it's just awesome now to see this space here, because you started off giving us kind of parameters of this is the size of the building it's going to be, and we put together some layouts
Yes.
and made some changes along the way. Like we did a couple different options, but I really love the layout because you have a really good sight lines through the ISO booth into the live room. You got a little airlock here that also has a bathroom. It's just like
Greatest part of the studio, the bathroom.
the bathroom, right? Because the bathroom it has tie lines into it and conduit that you can plug into the bathroom. It's another ISO booth if you want it.
Yes.
And
yes.
I guess I'm wondering how much, because I know that you have a day job as well, and but you have a lot of time to be able to be in the studio. Like, how often are you in here?
I'm here quite a bit. For sure, evenings. The job that I have is pretty flexible on the hours. And so if there's certain sessions that I have, like on Monday, I can just flex my hours to another time. So it's 80 hours a week that I have to do with that studio. With my work. And so the flexibility of moving my time around is very nice to have as a job.
80 hours, not every week, right?
Every 2 weeks.
Okay,
every
good.
2 weeks.
I was like, because
every 2 weeks.
You're not sleeping at all if that's the case.
So sometimes on Saturdays and sometimes I get up early or even later. But the majority of musicians that come here usually come in the evening.
Sure.
Because they work. And they need to support themselves. So weekends, I'm here usually recording or doing. There's actually people. The live room is used as a rehearsal studio too.
Oh,
so
nice.
people come and they pay to rehearse here.
Oh, that's
so
great.
They use it too. So that.
Yeah, it's a nice size space for that, for like a band, and be able to do everything there.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that when the studio was open, I wish I would have been able to come out for it, but you had an open house.
I did have a grand opening.
Yeah.
In July 2023. July 1st. July 23rd.
Yeah. How was that?
It was great. I honestly thought that no one was going to come.
Yeah.
Maybe 20 people.
Yeah.
And I had I'm very ambitious with the go big or go home kind of mentality.
Sure.
As you could tell. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do this Eventbrite link and sell and try to get 100 tickets out. And it's a super big idea. And they sold out.
Nice.
They sold out. And so at the end, there was about it had to be over 140 people because we counted them as we were counting. And we had a stage area, which maybe later on we can go check out the area where the bands were playing. Yeah. Sound systems, catering, free drinks, bartending, free, open bar. And it went from, I think we had 8 bands that played. Bands that played. And most of the bands were here recorded. Have recorded in the past, or I've recorded them in the past. So it was like a all night thing. It was great. Even our neighbors were sticking out
Yeah.
the fence.
I was going to ask
Like,
about that. Are
like
they
going,
good? Are
yeah.
they good with having? I mean, sometimes people obviously this space is like really well isolated, and you don't disturb your neighbors. But sometimes when people just know you're building a studio, they get a little nervous. Is that the case with any of your neighbors?
Yeah, I don't think they know there's a studio here. Yeah, because I've had live bands full blown blasting in here, and you could barely hear it outside.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah.
That's all the work you've done. All the sizing and isolation is great. It's great in
Yeah.
here. We were outside a little while ago. We saw planes and people landscaping, and they're still out there, and you don't hear anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We did kind of a full kind of room within a room system in here, and there's a lot of isolation and insulation from the outside, which also helps to contain and be able to, when you're running HVAC in here, it probably stays pretty consistent, except for all the gear that heats up a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
But so I was wondering too, like. Obviously, if 140 people are coming to your open house, like there's a bit of a community here. How do you tap into that? Are you just, is there forums or anything like that you're finding people, or how do people find you?
I think it's mainly through Instagram. I do have an Instagram page. It's a Fullwave Studios is an Instagram name. And in that page, when I first started building this, I started that page-ish around that time. So on my Instagram feed, you could see the entire build from the dirt all the way to it is now.
Yeah.
So that's what I think caused a lot of people to follow and look at what's going on.
Yeah.
I had a lot of tie-ins with artists and musicians in this area. When I first opened that studio, when we first started talking, I got a lot of clients in here because they will go from Riverside County and had to drive all the way to LA County to go to a studio. Yeah. And when they found out that this studio was right in the middle, that's how I started getting clients. So Riverside County is a big community that the music industry is growing really big. And a lot of people that I know from Burbank and from the LA area are actually moving over here.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot of like library agents and people that I know that actually live over here now.
Yeah.
A little farther on, and it's like 40 miles, 30 miles east of Los Angeles. It's not a big
easy drive.
Easy drive. So that's that community. And then while we were constructing, there was obviously a delay in sessions because this was up and running, not running yet. I got involved with a lot of people in the synchronization world where it's for film and TV. So I started hanging out with those people. So I was spread out over those two communities, and that's the people that showed up here were from those two communities. So,
I think it's pretty well. I think it's great, like because I follow your Instagram, of course, and you're always like going to different events. Like actually, we're out here in California for the NAMM show, and I always see you there. But then also I see you going to like songwriting camps and different things like that, or like little workshops. And I think networking as a studio owner is everything.
That's the big thing. The networking at these events. I have the luxury to be able to go. And most of my friends that I know, I met them there at these events. Some of them are for synchronization music. Others are for production, like the Production Music Conference in Los Angeles also. Yeah. There's one coming up in Ventura called the Durango Songwriting Festival. And that one is for artists to present music to sync agents. Okay. So, but you meet all the agents there. You meet all the artists, producers, so it's a great community to be in. For sure. Yeah. Music has always been the thing that it's funny how I said earlier that no one in my family ever played any instrument or any music. There's music in the house. And even all my cousins and all my family now in 2024, none of them play music. I'm like the only one that actually plays an instrument and is in music.
That's kind of similar with my family. Like I grew up just loving music. My parents really enjoyed music. I grew up listening to a lot of Beatles and Carpenters and different stuff like that, but they didn't play any instruments or anything. My brother, he played trombone a little bit in school, but my uncle, he owned a music shop, and he was a guitarist and bass player, and so he gave me my first guitar, and it's just like, someone's got to start it, right?
Somebody does. Yeah. I grew up with my family, the weekends you clean, right? And there was usually music always playing. And the music that I grew up in as a Mexican-American community here, there's a lot of like rancheras, called ranchera music, norteño, boleros. Boleros are like classical guitars, like trios, 3 guys on a classical guitar. But my parents also listened to Freddie Fender and Robbie Krieger and those
Okay.
older school rock songs. But it's funny how I grew up with that type of music. I went to all the typical quinceañeras for the 15-year-old birthdays and everything. But I mainly focused and specialized in punk music.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for all the touring time. So it's funny
Yeah.
how two different worlds, but
So I'm curious on this, with the studio. Obviously, you have people coming in and wanting to record their own music. Are you recording a lot of your own stuff as well?
oh yeah, the studio was designed originally for recording because that's what I was doing first. But during the time when we were constructing, I met those that agencies of the world of synchronization for music. So now in 2024, I dedicated my time now to write and compose music for sync.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I'm doing now, and I'm doubling down on it this year, this calendar year. But the recording, I still do that. But I mainly record artists that I know, bands that I know. I haven't done so much on the random Instagram calls that I get.
Sure.
I'm pushing back a little bit only because I want to focus on building my own catalog that I own 100% on.
Yeah.
And that's this year. If it doesn't work out, then I still go back to continuing to recording. But all the instrumentation on those compositions that I do for sync, they're like 1.5 minute, 2-minute long songs, and I do all the instrumentation on that. So I write all the drums, play the bass, the guitars, everything. No vocals.
Yeah.
I suck at vocals, but it's all instrumentation. Yeah.
That's nice. Well, it's cool. It seems like you're building like a really neat community here, and it's almost like one of those things where I'm sure as soon as people walk into a place like this, they're just like, I want to be there. Like it's a very comfortable space, and it's probably more professional than maybe other studios that they've been in the past.
Oh, everyone loves when they walk in here. They're awestruck
Yeah.
of like the aesthetics, how it looks, the color scheme, the art sometimes, and just the idea of that. And right when you close that door, usually people always say like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it sounds weird. Like it sounds like really quiet."
Yeah.
And so everyone's always amazed when they come here. Everyone, always. It's crazy. No one has said anything bad.
Yeah.
Has said anything bad.
That's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast. I think people are going to love to be able to see this and see what's possible when you put your mind to something like this. And I'm excited just to see what comes for you for the next
thank you for having me. Yeah,
next years. And we'll have to check in again soon, though.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch for sure.
All right. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you so much.
All right. So that's been another episode of the S.O.U.N.D Project. Thanks for being a part of it. Make sure you check out at Fullwave Studios on Instagram, and we'll see you next week.